Okay, as I've talked about before, I've worked on 3 presidential campaigns, and every campaign, even the ones that win, have bad days and even bad months. But rarely, if ever, has there been such a loud call by the supporters of a nominee to drop out. Now, as we've been discussing, those calls are far from universal. It's also not at all clear what the preferred alternative path is, which is very important. But all of the speculation also means the people inside the Biden campaign right now are juggling a lot. It's their job to support Joe Biden. And during what I bet has been the most difficult period of the campaign to date, to tell the story of their plan for the path forward. So over the course of the last week, they announced on Friday that they will spend $50 million in advertising this month. They also announced that June was their best fundraising month of the campaign, which included the $30 million raised in the days immediately following the debate. At the same time, my guess is the campaign is still fielding lots of calls, questions, and concerns from elected officials, from donors, and from campaign staffers about the path forward. One of the main people having those hard conversations, both internally with the team and externally with supporters, is Quentin Fowkes. He's the principal deputy campaign manager for the Biden-Harris campaign, and he joins me now. First of all, thank you for being here. As I just noted, you have a lot on your plate in addition to helping run the campaign. Let me just start with the president's appearance at the African-American church in the suburbs of, I think, outside of Philadelphia today. I thought that was a very interesting choice. It seemed to send the message to me that he still has a strong base of support. There were cheers at moments. I couldn't tell if there were boos. I think they were mainly cheers. Is that something we can expect to see more of, like going into churches like that, African-American churches, to kind of continue to build that support?
Absolutely. It's part of our core strategy. It has been since the outset of this campaign. You saw it very early on when the president went to South Carolina and visited Mother Emanuel. It's been a stalwart of who President Biden is in his entire political career, and it's what we're going to continue to do. We know we have to mobilize communities of color, different constituencies, and the campaign for us is still going. We're still forging ahead because Joe Biden is the nominee, and we've got to do everything we can to communicate with voters where they are. And for a lot of voters, that is Sunday in church, and that's what President Biden did today.
Yeah, I think people would like to see. We were just talking about this a lot more of that moving forward. Let me ask you, I mean, the president did his first big sit-down interview with George Stephanopoulos on Friday. It played Friday evening. I want to play you a clip of it that I talked about a little bit this morning. Let's play that, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
And if you stay in and Trump is elected and everything you're warning about comes to pass, how will you feel in January?
I feel as long as I gave it my all and I did the goodest job as I know I can do. That's what this is about.
I mean, you and I both know it's about so much more than that. And I know that Joe Biden believes it's more than that. But there are a lot of people, Adam Schiff this morning, who were upset about him saying that. So what do you say to them?
I think that in the heat of the moment, everything gets taken a little bit out of context. I think what the president is saying...
Well, that was the full context.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that the way it's being interpreted, I think that the president is saying nobody's going to work harder than he has to defeat Donald Trump. He understands the stakes of this election. I mean, take a look back at why the president ran the first time. He saw Charlottesville, he saw Trump and what he was doing to this country, and he got in the race. This isn't about Joe Biden thinking that he is the only person that can beat Donald Trump. This is the fact that Joe Biden believes deeply that he has a better vision for this country, and that is what we are doing on this campaign to make sure that we're drawing the contrast between those two visions. And President Biden does not believe that this is about him. And our whole campaign apparatus since the moment that we have announced has been about democracy, freedom, the stakes of this election, and what it means for real Americans at their kitchen tables when they're making those hard decisions about what bills to pay, child care. That's what this race is about, and that's where the president's focus remains. And I think what he was saying, and I know what he meant, is the fact that nobody's going to work harder than him to defeat Donald Trump.
Let me ask you about your job is really hard. I just want to acknowledge for anybody who has confusion about that, you're helping run the campaign. You're also a role model to staff when you're in a leadership position. First, let me ask you about conversations you've been having with donors, elected officials, others from the outside, because you're a person who would take a lot of that. And we know they're going on. It is not business as usual. Yeah. How much of your time is that consuming? What are you hearing from people generally? Because we see what's in the reporting, but what are you hearing, honestly, from people who are calling?
Look, I think that we hear that there's broad support for the president. People know that President Biden has had their back in the work that he's been doing. People want reassurance. And I think that that's okay to say. The president knows that that's okay to say, that he knows he has to get out there and reassure people. And so part of my job is doing that. But make no mistake about it, this campaign is in a strong position. And we're in a strong position because of voters. You mentioned our staff. Our staff draws energy from voters. Voters are the people who elect presidents. There's only one campaign that is building an apparatus with field offices, ours at nearly 300, with staff, ours at over 1,000 across the battleground states. And this isn't just staff in Wilmington, Delaware. This is staff across the country in the battleground states talking to voters. And so President Biden gets his energy from voters. Our campaign gets our energy and enthusiasm from voters. And the people that we've hired on staff deeply believe in President Biden and Vice President Harris's vision for the country. And that's why they're on this campaign.
It's also quite bonding when you're being hit
In
from
the
a lot from the
trenches,
outside.
yeah.
Let me ask you about Vice President Harris. And just I will reiterate very clearly, because I know you will,
No.
President Biden has made no indication he's not planning to be the nominee.
Yep.
But on the conversation around Vice President Harris, Donna Brazile told NBC News, quote, if somebody wants to go past or look past the Vice President of the United States and find someone else, they would still have to come past some of us. Black women are still the backbone of the party. That's unquestionable, but she's essentially saying that it has to be Harris if it's not Biden. Do you agree?
First of all, it is Biden. But Vice President Harris has been a great partner to President Biden, and President Biden knows that. President Biden is going to win re-election to be the president of the United States, and Vice President Harris is going to get a second term as vice president. And the reason that is President Biden picked her, but because before she was vice president, she had a long history of standing up to the banks and going after mortgages, lenders who were being predatory. And since she has been vice president, she's been on the front lines talking about abortion and reproductive freedom. She's been across the country, saw her go on the ground in Tennessee. We've seen her go to Munich to make the case against Putin, the fact that he was committing war crimes. We've seen her be a partner and an ally to President Biden, and she looks forward to continuing to do that. And I do just want to make one point. Vice President Harris's worth isn't wrapped up in the fact that she's black or that she's a woman.
True.
She has been an incredibly strong vice president and an ally. She has the experience, and that is where her focus remains, on being a partner to President Biden, as she has been for every single accomplishment that they've gotten done over the past 3.5 years.
So though it is Biden, if it were Harris, I know it's not right now, does she get the talents of Quentin Folks working for her?
I'm not even going to engage in any hypothetical situations like that. She has the talents of Quentin Folks working for her right now because she is on the ticket with President Biden.
Fair enough. Quentin Folks, you have a hard job. Thank you for doing what you're doing. It's important, and I know people look up to you and rely on you, too. Thank you for being here as well.
Thank you.